right. Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of the After Hours podcast. We hope you enjoyed the last episode with Hannah of Hannoween Town as we did our official launch on Halloween because I wanted the anniversary for this podcast, the official one, to always be on Halloween. And today I am here with a very talented lady who has had like a million careers and has lived like many lives in like her short time here on earth. And it's Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. Did I?
It's Van Scoy, but that's closer than a
Van
lot of people
Scoyoc.
think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So the O and the C at the end is silent.
Yep,
So
yep.
okay. Yes.
Ancestry.
Oh, okay. Nice. Cool. So, all right. So you've been up to quite a bit and you're very versatile, which of course I love. And you're always on the move and doing something. So, I mean, tell us, like, what are you up to these days? Because like I said, it's like you always seem to be dropping something new. So,
Always.
yeah.
I can't stand to sit idle. I was retired for 12 years. So I had all my
Okay.
idle time then. And when I came back and started writing again, I just took off with a vengeance. So
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of books on the market, got another new book that is getting ready to drop soon. I just today launched the accompanying soundtrack to it, The Mercenary Files,
Ooh,
which is going to be coming out
nice.
through Midnight Publishing. And
Woo.
my amazing publisher, Yvonne Mason, she's already making videos. And just from the scant descriptions, because I kind of in my new book want to leave it up to the reader's imaginations, what everyone looks like. Well, she's come up with her own idea, and it's amazing how close her ideas are to mine for the people in the books. So I've got that going and the soundtrack. Right when you sent me the link for the interview, I was just getting everything done on Instagram. Yeah, so I mean the soundtrack just dropped. So I'm excited about that. And I'm working on a book of Celtic Christian prayers to be put out next year. And then I've also got another Gothique book for next year because I'm going to polish and tweak for this year, but I'm not putting out any more books this year. I'm done for this year. But next year is going to see the release of Sonnets, which is all Gothic dark tragedy based on poison plants. So each story feature a poisonous plant, whether it's belladonna, whether it's hemlock, whether it's datura, whether it's a cork plant, something along. Everything is going to feature a poisonous plant.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh man, I love it. I can't wait for those to come out. And I've read like some of your short stories and everything. And yeah, like I just, yeah, you just have such a unique way of writing that I think is like different, definitely different from most other authors I've read. And it's just like the way you just like engage from the very beginning, it's and just your characters are so vivid and love it.
I tell everybody that's because I'm self-taught. I didn't go to college to learn to write. I am a big proponent of those that can do, those that can't teach. If these people knew so much, they would be out making millions of dollars and be on the New York Times bestsellers list. What they're doing is simply recycling old information that they learned. And I'm not a big fan of structured education anyway, because I believe it stifles creativity. So that's why I always tell people I'm proudly self-taught because my teachers in school, you know how you get writing assignments in school.
Yeah.
My teachers always told me I had no talent and I would never go anywhere with writing. And that was because I didn't follow the formula that they gave me my own stories. So I always tell people, don't listen to anybody. Write the way you write. People have to be retrained because if you read a book, people don't speak the way books are laid out. And people don't look at scenes and locations the way they're described in books.
Right.
And unfortunately, people have been trained to know this is the real way to see this. This is the only way to see this. This is the correct way to see this. And it's not. Because I tell people all the time, go to your local mall and listen to people talk and then pick up a book and tell me they talk the same way. They don't.
Yeah, no, that's so true. That is so true. And, and even when I write, I try to keep my characters' dialogue like as realistic as possible. Now I might have to switch it up here and there depending on the era that they're living in, because obviously somebody in medieval Europe is going to talk a lot differently than somebody, in 21st century America. However, I do still try to keep, the conversation as like free flowing and realistic as possible and not be so stifled unless that's the character.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't do what you do. There is no way I could write. And like I did it one time, sort of, in one of my past books, and I was like, oh no, I'm done with that.
Writing like a very uppity character, like
and the language of the time, which was like pre-Europe almost, and I was like, oh no, we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, but you have like, kind of like a gotcha to your teachers that told you didn't have talent. You've had quite the writing career. I mean, you've released many books. You've done like, fan convention circuits, and you've amassed like a great following, from your books. And you've written a lot, in like the horror genre. That's where you've been very prominent. And so I'm always curious because, I like horror myself, but I'm always curious to know what draws, other people to the horror genre.
Well, I've pretty much given up horror. Horror was my first writing life. And then, as I said, I retired for 12 years and then got bored and came out of retirement and swore that I was going to do things differently. So this time I took on more what is my personality, which is the Gothique, which is more like your Jack the Ripper, your Victorian London, your foggy castles, your dark gardens, your cemeteries. So that's why as soon as I came out of retirement and my books hit the market, reviewers actually started labeling me as the new Poe, because all of my work went from horror to Gothique.
Yeah, nice. And like what like draws you to that genre? Like just it's the fact that it's what you feel like expresses you more, or
I feel it's the real me.
It's the real
always told people that I was born in the wrong time. I should have been born anywhere from like Lord of the Rings time to right before the turn of the century in the 20th century in Europe.
Right.
Anytime there. And so I don't feel American at all.
Right.
Except for maybe like the 1930s, because I'm a big fan of the music of Billie Holiday. So, but other than that, I'm a serious Anglophile. My books all have like a European English flair to them. I throw people all the time because I'll say things like, I'll call people tossers, and I'll say something in a bin, and I'll say, I'll walk into a room and I'll be like, oh, wow, what a tip. Yeah. And I say things like that, and it throws people. And
people are like, what? What's she talking about?
No, I'll say something. I'll be like, oh, wow, look at that lorry. Look at that huge lorry going by. And my husband's like, whatever, stop watching Midsummer Murders. But I had a friend one time that came over. It's been about 35 years now. She came over to visit me. This was back before the advent of the internet, when you actually got pen pals from out of the back of books, out of the back of magazines. And I met her that way. And she'd never been to America before, and we went to a mall. She said she wanted to go to an American mall. So I chose, which was at the time, the International Drive Mall, which is out by the airport in Orlando, which is where I'm originally from. And we're walking around, and there used to be this furniture company called the Bombay Company. And they did all like colonial British African furniture, the tassels and the ornate. And I'm walking through saying, I'll take this, I'll take this, I'll take this. And in the meantime, she was dressed in like a Nirvana t-shirt and a pair of shorts or some t-shirt. Oh, not Nirvana. I can't remember the name of the band now. It's been so long, but she looked typically American and I looked like the Brit. And we're walking through and she looks at me and she says, "Why are you here?" And I said, "Because you wanted to come to an American mall." She said, "No, you. Why are you here? You are not an American."
Oh
So
my
my
gosh,
writing
that's
tends to
funny.
reflect that too. Because there are people that contact me and they're like, "Oh, I thought you were a Brit." And I'm like, "Well, thank you, but no."
No.
Many generations removed, but so yeah, my
Yeah.
writing
So like,
tends to reflect that.
right. Yeah. Like what are some of your favorite like shows to watch? Like as far as like if you're getting inspiration from something, or do you get like just inspiration from your own imagination?
My own imagination. And sometimes I'll
Oh
see something
wow.
on TV. My latest free ebook, Clancy. The husband and I
Okay.
were watching an episode of Antiques Roadshow, and someone had
Okay.
brought in this giant statue of a sleeping dog, and it had been carved from wood, and it was like the size of a life-size, almost like a Labrador sized dog. It was
Oh
huge, and
wow.
it was from the early 1900s. And I'm sitting there
Oh wow.
watching it, and I'm thinking, brain starts going, and the next thing you know, out comes the story Clancy. So
There you go. Yeah, yeah, you never know where you're going to get inspiration from. And but sometimes, yeah, it just like seems to just come from the ethers and it's almost like, oh wow, like where did that even like if I'm whether I'm writing a song or a story like with myself, it's like there's like times when I'm just like, wow, like it's like where did that come
yeah.
from? Was that fed to me by like, some, person long past or, I mean, like they want their story told or, but it's really, cause yeah, sometimes I do get inspired by like something I, watch or read or listen to, but other times, like actually most of the time I will say I'm a very organic writer. And I, like, yeah, like I'll just be like tinkering at my keyboard, whether it's my musical keyboard or my, laptop keyboard. But like and then all of a sudden it's like this idea will just come out. And sometimes like the song or the story like writes itself. Like, do you ever have that?
Oh, my stories all write themselves. I don't write
Yeah.
anything. When I used to, and still, when I sit down at a keyboard, I sit,
Mm-hmm.
my fingers go on the keyboard, and they don't stop until the story's finished. I don't write
Yeah.
anything. It's almost like I've said this ever since I started writing. It's almost like automatic writing with me. I just
Yeah.
sit down and
Mm-hmm.
there it goes. It's in my head playing as a
Yeah.
movie, and it goes from here to
Uh-huh.
here. And that's just,
Yeah.
and when I'm done, I'm done. Then I'll go back and tweak and polish. And people always wondered
Mm-hmm.
why I could write up to 3 novels a year when I used to do that. I would write like three
Uh-huh.
350-page novels a year.
Yeah.
And people wondered
And
how I
people
could
will
do
be like,
that.
what?
And I said, well, it's
Yeah.
because I've got the movie playing in my head and it's got to come out.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it keeps me
Mm.
up at night.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've recently had your older works
Yeah.
republished too. Yes, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to check out your older works
Yeah,
that,
my
were
beautiful vampire books, Fallen from Shadow, Found in Grace, Left to the Night Alone. Yeah, those, I feel that those are some of my best earlier vampire work. And then we've got the Blackford Manor Vampires, which is my favorite, actually, of my newest vampire work.
okay. Yeah, nice. Yeah, and you can get those like on Amazon
Oh yeah,
and
oh yeah. Just visit my website and all the links are there. Everything's there.
all right. Yeah, perfect. Good. Yeah, because that'll be exciting to maybe like revisit some of your older works and
Yeah.
everything. And yeah,
Yeah, I always
sweet.
felt that Fallen from Shadow, Found in Grace, and A Vampire's Reprieve, which was the follow-up to that, and then Left to the
Mhm.
Night Alone and Dante's Diary, because I made the
Mhm.
unfortunate mistake back in the day of giving those two, Left to the Night Alone and Dante's Diary, to a publisher that didn't do anything with them. And
Oh,
then I
okay.
retired shortly after I wrote Fallen from Shadow, Found in Grace. It wasn't too long after
Yeah.
I wrote that I retired. So I always felt those books never got the love they deserve. Because today
Yeah.
I feel that Left to the Night Alone is my absolute best vampire
Best
work. Yeah.
work. Yeah. Yeah. Aw. But, that's great that your work is getting new life now and like maybe will attract like a new generation of readers now
Hopefully
too.
so.
So,
Hopefully so.
yeah. Yeah, so now kind of pivoting a little bit, you also share some of your ancestral knowledge, as well as some Celtic Christian practices,
Mhm.
on your Greenlee's Garden page. And yeah, and I was one of the first to be interviewed in the first newsletter, so that was exciting. And but like, tell a little bit about that because some people might see that like as, oh, completely different than say your Gothique stuff. Or, do you see it as really not all that different?
Oh, no, it's completely different. I always tell people I have many, many facets. So I have to, because I try not to overlap them because I have
Right.
so many horror and Gothic books on the market that it's
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming for some people. So I tell people,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you've got my Gothic works, and then you've
Yeah.
got my ancestral works because
Mm-hmm.
I hail from a long line of country witches, wise women. I say wise women
Mm-hmm.
and cunning folk. If you're in the
Yeah.
trade, you know what that means, but there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people that you say wise women or cunning folk and they look at you and go, "What's that?" So,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I don't like the term witch per se
Right.
because it
Yeah.
is so watered down now and so polluted. But that was what people used to call the healers back in the day
Right.
because they didn't really know how to understand these people or explain what they could do. But
Yeah.
all the way back from my Druid ancestry, which I have traced
Mm-hmm.
all the way back my Welsh Druid ancestry,
Yeah.
all the way to me now,
Yeah.
all country healers. You
Mm-hmm.
think about the old women living in the cottage in Appalachia. It's
Yeah.
funny. My husband and I were watching the movie Pumpkinhead one night.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
when he goes and he visits the old witch in the cottage to bring his son back to life,
Yeah.
and he runs into all the people in the town, my husband
Yeah.
looks at me and he goes, "Hey, babe, when did they go film all your mother's people for this movie?" And I'm like, "Shut up." Because that's really,
Oh man.
that's the kind of people I hail from. You're talking the hills and the
Yeah.
hollers and piping the sunlight in. And so
Yeah.
those people, and even I was raised this way, didn't go to
Mm-hmm.
doctors. That was something that
Right.
only
Yeah.
rich folk and city folk did.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't go give
Yeah.
some scam doctor who just wanted your money anything. You
Mm-hmm.
healed yourself.
Yeah.
So, as
Right.
my great great grandmother did, as my great grandmother did, my grandmother, my mother, and now
Yeah.
me, we're all healers. Now, my
Mm-hmm.
mother, unfortunately, is in the beginning stages of dementia. So, she
Okay.
probably doesn't remember a lot of what she taught me. She might just out of like muscle
Right.
memory remember things, but I am
Mm-hmm.
actively I've got an apothecary cabinet. I share my
Yeah.
knowledge freely because unfortunately my
Mm-hmm.
niece I don't think is ever going to have, and I have no birth children of my own. So,
Okay.
and I don't think my niece is ever going to show any interest. So
Oh. Aw.
1,000 years worth of knowledge dies with me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I give
Oh
away
man.
as much knowledge as I can. And I've
Yeah.
got it all in books because I want everyone to know. I want everyone to be able to treat themselves. I want everyone to know it's not Harry Potter, even though I love Harry Potter, not disparaging Harry Potter, but it's not standing around and throwing in a bat wing and an eye of newt and all this.
Right.
You can make cures just out of stuff in your own kitchen, which is what I do.
Absolutely.
I don't go out and buy all of this weird stuff and have all of this stock of stuff that I'm never going to use. Everything I have is practical and has a use. So that's what Greenlee's Garden is for, is to pass on. Here's how you can do this. Here's plants in your yard that you can eat if you have to. If there ever comes a time that there's going to be a run on the grocery stores, if World War Z happens tomorrow and there's no food and all the shelves are bare, but you have this stuff growing in your backyard. Oh, wait a minute. You can eat that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm big on recycling. That's another important thing because, that was another thing. My ancestors didn't go out and buy material. Right. My mother's dresses were made out of flour sacks.
Ooh, I've heard about that. I've heard about people, because I'm into history too. So, I've heard about people making, dresses and clothing out of flour sacks. And I think I read something about how it was like during the Depression where, people of course couldn't afford to buy clothes. So the flour companies were purposefully making like these very beautiful looking flour sacks because they knew people would want to repurpose them into clothes. I was like, that is so cool.
Oh yeah. My mother's clothing was made from flour sacks. And my mother was born in 1945. So this was quite a bit, this was quite a bit later, but also you're talking, dirt road, no indoor plumbing, you're talking that. So as she got a little older, of course, things change and not always for the better. So the company started not making the pretty sacks any longer. So by that time, her older sister had outgrown some of her clothing, so my mother got that. So, that was the saving grace there. But I try to pass along. People will look at me so funny when I always raid free boxes at yard sales. And a lot of times there's clothing in there. And I'll take the clothing and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm glad somebody can make use of that. I'm like, if it's a pair of jeans or something like that, I'll say, oh, yeah, I'm going to cut it up and use it as quilt scraps. And they're like, what? Yeah, you put it in there for free, I guess, thinking somebody was just going to use it as a cleaning rag. No, I can take it and I can make a quilt out of it to give to somebody to keep them warm.
Yeah, nice.
I also make hobbit bags. So what I call hobbit bags.
Aren't you making those hobbit bags? Yeah. Nice. I love it. Yep. Is there any place to like get a hobbit bag off of you?
People can just ask me for one and I'll make it and send it to them. I don't. And this is kind of a funny thing. And it's always funny for me to say it because I always get kind of the hairy eyeball for like a few seconds, like people are trying to process what to say to me.
Yeah.
I have a thing with money. I don't like money because money turns people greedy. I've seen what money can do to people. I've seen how people have been when they didn't have money and then suddenly they had money. I remember my own in the past when I was writing. It's part of the reason I got burned out and retired. It was, okay, how many books do I need to sell? How many books do I need to sell to make my publisher happy so they'll keep me so they don't drop my contract? I need to sell these books. Right. I need to sell these books. Money, 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 money. And so now it's like, now if people, because some people don't like to take something for nothing, and I understand that. But I tell people, if you want to trade me something, let's trade. And we can do that. If you don't want me just to make you a hobbit bag and send it to you, then we can trade something. But I always tell people all the time, just message me. I'll make you a hobbit bag and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I'd love a hobbit bag.
Okay. Then consider it done. And I have one in mind for you. I was thinking about making one for you anyway, so I'm glad you want one because I have in mind for you what I'm going to do. I already have it sitting out. And I keep looking at it, and I'm like, Tiffany. So I guess you got the mental thing going on here.
I did. Like it was like this whole telepathic thing we got going on here. Yeah.
Hobbit bag Tiffany.
Yeah, I want my Hobbit bag, definitely. So, and, in, doing what you do with Greenlee's Garden and, just trying to keep these traditions alive. And I think that's really cool. And it's really interesting how you mentioned like the which, like, they called the wise women witches. And I was reading about how the term witch or wick or wicca derives from the term. It's like it means wise one. It
Mm-hmm.
literally, same thing with the term wizard. They mean like, the wise ones. And it was just, yeah, and like it's really interesting when you read about that and see like just how polluted it's all become over, the last, what, centuries now.
Oh, it
So
has. And it really, because and a lot of people, I want to say a lot of people don't know this, but I think a lot of people do, but I think they don't care
Mhm.
because of the world we live
Right.
in.
Yeah.
There is if you are a true witch, if you are a
Mhm.
true hereditary ancestral bloodline witch, you know this, it's
Mhm.
passed down through the families. You don't charge for your services ever.
Mm. Mhm.
It's just something you don't do. It's
Mhm.
the only thing I can think of to compare it to, and this is a really poor comparison, but almost like prostitution. You want to go out
Oh.
and have a good time, but then you got to pay somebody for it. And then you have to suffer
Mm.
the consequences of that. You can get arrested, you can catch a disease.
Yeah.
There's just
Mhm.
this unspoken law that you
Mhm.
don't charge. That's why when people come to me for healing, and I am not a doctor by any means, but
Mhm.
if my neighbor used to come to me all the time, and
Mhm.
like her dad had something wrong with his leg and it was like really scaly and itchy, and they had been to the doctor. He,
Okay.
he was elderly and he was sedentary. So that,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
he was getting stuff in his leg. They'd been to the doctor. The doctor had given him all of this dangerous stuff. Of course, that's probably going to work, but it
Mhm.
was dangerous. And she's like, I don't want my dad on any of that. Can you do
Yeah.
something? So I just whipped up something for her and gave it to her. And I
Mhm.
said, here, try this on him. And she's like, how much do I owe you? And I'm like, don't even, no, no.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, why? I need to give you something for it. And I'm like, no, if you want to give me something, bake me some cupcakes or something. And
Yeah.
so see, that's the unspoken rule. And I
Like to work
remember,
on like a more barter system there.
right, when my grandmother
Yeah.
would do things for people, I remember her
Mhm.
doing the same thing. She'd feed people and they would be
Mm.
like, well, I don't have any
Yeah.
way to repay you. And she'd be like, nope, just enjoy the food and go. Or if someone
Mhm.
would come to her and they would need, something for a headache or some kind of herb or something, she'd be like, here you go. And
Yeah.
they'd be like, well, how much? Nope, nope, just feel better. So
Uh-huh.
that was impressed upon me. But the world
Mhm.
we live in today, and I'm probably going to get tons of hate mail for this, the world we live in today, unfortunately, is all about money. And people say,
Mhm.
well, I deserve to be compensated for my time. Well, no, actually, you don't, because time is priceless.
Mhm.
If you sit for a moment and do nothing,
Mhm.
you can never get that time back. That time is gone.
Right.
So you can't put a price on your time. It is
Mhm.
priceless because you couldn't charge enough money to recoup
Mhm.
your time. Come here,
Mhm.
come here, come here, come here, come here. All right, want to be in the interview? There, say hi
Like the
to me.
cat. Ah.
Thank you, Daphne. Um, so I tell people, number one, you shouldn't be buying things. And this is probably going to get me even more hate mail because there's a lot of people out there that make money off of selling witchy stuff.
Mm.
Make stuff out of things that you find in nature.
Mhm.
Bones. I understand if you're making jewelry, you have to get like certain wiring and things like that. But I tell
Mhm.
people, try shops, try yard
Mhm.
sales. And if you don't have anything like that where you are, then I can understand going online. But try to go to places that aren't going to charge you a lot of money, because that is not what
Mhm.
the arts are all about. It's not supposed to be about money. It's just like, and I hate to go back to Pumpkinhead, but if you look at what in the movie Lance Henriksen gave the old witch, I mean, she brought she was going to bring his son the vengeance to light that was going to take care of his son being murdered. And what did she ask for? Virtually nothing for doing something like that. Now the price was really high that he had to pay.
Right.
But in the same vein, we don't live in that kind of world. So you're not going to have to pay a high price for going out and getting bones and making jewelry and this and that and the other. But you also don't want to contribute to what it has become, which, like you said, has become so polluted.
Yeah.
And then people look down on people like myself because we're truly trying to keep the old ways alive, and we're passé, we're fossils, we don't know what we're talking about, we're outdated, nobody does that anymore. And it's like, yeah, but we need to, because we should have never left that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And what ancient tradition would you want to keep alive?
Healing for free.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
kind of like what you've been talking about.
Yeah, that's close to my heart as a Bonfassa. That's Celtic for healer. I would want to keep that alive because no one should have to go without health care. And I understand some people have really serious things wrong with them. I understand that. But your people that have your colds, your allergies, your headaches, your things like that, it shouldn't be a matter of, well, I'd like to go to a doctor, but I can't because I don't have the money. And this goes back to also healers not using a bunch of weird crap that they've bought online. If someone comes to me with a headache, I'll mix up something like maybe some eucalyptus oil or something like that. And I'll be like, or hold it and just do this with it. Don't ever put it up to your face. But I'll be like, just this with it. You can smell it and see if that'll open you up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, but but there really is, a lot to be found in nature. I mean, even just like going out and grounding, that can have so many I mean, whether it's like lifting up your mood or, I mean, at least I found that with myself, like just grounding has just been like, kind of a game changer in a way.
Oh, it is. I earth all the time. I walk outside barefoot all the time, and the husband's like, yeah, that's what's wrong with your back. You don't ever wear shoes. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't. Don't wear shoes unless I leave the house.
Oh man. So,
Constant.
but what do you so like what are some of the stuff like you're working on next? I know you said you have a few releases coming out next year.
Yeah, currently I'm working on those books. I'm working on some quilts. I hand stitch. That's another thing I would like to bring back is hand stitching. I don't use a machine.
Okay.
I'd like to use a treadle machine. I have one, but I kind of look longingly at it and then I'm like, nah.
No.
I'll do the same thing my grandmother did. I will hand stitch until my hands give out and I can't move them anymore. I've already had carpal tunnel. I've had tenosynovitis release in both hands.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm back. And my husband's like, seriously, you've had surgery for this and you're going to go back to hand stitching. I'm like, yep, sure am. And I'll have it again whenever I need to. But that's another thing I'd like to keep alive is hand stitching. And I do that. I hand stitch my Hobbit bags. People look at my hands. I mean, I don't know if you can see I don't know if you can see my finger. I use my finger as a thimble. So I've got like holes in my finger. And I hand stitch through denim. I hand stitch through the like the canvas type pants.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. I make my quilts now and my hobbit bags. So that's what
Yeah.
and then I'm also, whenever I get a break or take a break, I'm going to start on another round of Celtic relaxing music.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Nice.
Neen music, which is my Celtic instrumental and my Viking and Celtic music, that kind of went to the wayside for a while. I mean, it's still out there. It's still on YouTube. I've
Okay.
got it listed on Greenlee's Garden on the website and all that, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of gone the wayside. So I'm going to revive that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes things have to take a little hiatus, while you're working on other things. It's like kind of like you have to work in seasons, like take something off your plate so that you can work on, something new and then, revive that. Like I'm doing that with my other podcast, my Bonfires and Castles podcast, where I decided to put it on a little bit of like a hiatus, for throughout this month so I can, get this new podcast and page like up and running. And yeah, but even doing this podcast, because I kind of felt like, the bonfire, it needed a refresher, but even like doing this, it's like it's really kind of got my creative juices flowing too for the other podcast. So sometimes, yeah, it's nice to, even though, yeah, you might not want to like put it aside for a while, sometimes it's best to do that and just kind of put it aside, go work on something else to release. And then, that'll sometimes get like the creative juices flowing for, for then that old project, to revive it even better than it was before. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm kind of feeling that now that I've gotten all of my Gothique stuff out of my system. Now it's time to focus back on the healing, back on the music, back on my newsletter, which my next one is coming out on Samhain, the next Greenlee's Garden. And I did a little Halloween for that. I did about how All Hallows was once celebrated as a Christian tradition. And then I also threw a thing in there about the Salem witch trials, about why it was done. And
yeah. It's like that's another thing I wanted to ask you, because I know, we humans tend to be a very compartmentalizing bunch. And some people might look at what you're doing and be like, okay, like how can you do like the goth thing and still the Christian thing and, the Celtic ancient practices? It's like, how does that all fit together? Because I know like people, like I said, like unfortunately with a lot of people, you have to just be one or the other.
right.
And and so how do you explain it to people if they're like, wait a minute, you can't be all those?
Yeah, well, they do, because I'm pastor at Crowhaven Chapel, which is
Okay.
a Christian goth online church, and it's online, and people kind of roll their eyes when I say it's online, but I say because of the way secular Christianity can be, we are so marginalized and judged and just ripped apart that we don't make ourselves known a lot. Mostly you find us online because that's where we can find other people. But a lot of people won't actually come and congregate anywhere because they're afraid of the repercussions. So I tell people all the time, God doesn't care what you look like on the outside. He only cares what you have on the inside. And there's no reason that you can't love goth as long as you don't get into the evil devil worship and all of that. There's no reason you can't love goth and love God too. And I tell people all the time, and I always like to throw this at what I call secular Christians, because a lot of Christians don't even know their own history. And coming from the background that I am, all of my family converted to Christianity. Even one of my Viking lines, on one of my Viking lines, I descend from Rollo. And if you've ever watched the TV show Vikings, you know
Vikings,
who
yeah.
Rollo is. He was the Viking that converted from paganism to Christianity. And so that's also in my line. And so I tell people, a lot of people converted to Christianity, but they kept God first, even though they still followed the old ways. One of the first people ever to do that was Nano Hayes. She did that back in the legendary Elven times, if you read Celtic mythology, because she had a discussion with the last Elven king before it passed from legend into story into what we have now. Because he asked how a woman like her, because she was the town witch, how a woman like her could worship the new god.
Right.
And she told him that the new god thrives and survives. And she was very big into reading her Bible, and she asked him what of his gods. And he told her that his gods were but a memory. So people embraced the new god. And they can still keep their old ways as long as, like my family did. It was hush hush and it was kept secret, but we told, we helped. I grew up on superstitions almost as a religion, but God was always first. And that's how I do that. And I tell people all the time, there's no reason you can't go to ancient standing stones, Stonehenge, wherever you want to go. Just because you're going there and praying doesn't mean that you're disrespecting God. You can talk to God. You can commune with Jesus anywhere. It doesn't matter. And one of the things I like to tell Christians, Jesus wasn't born on Christmas, right? And I get the, what do you mean?
Right, yeah.
Number one, have you ever been to Jerusalem in the winter? There are no flocks to tend. There is no little shepherd boy. He and the flock would have frozen to death. And there were no three wise men walking anywhere because they would have frozen to death.
Right, yeah.
Well, why did they, and I say, well, Yule, the old pagan holiday of Yule.
Yule,
and I tell Christians, do you put up a Christmas tree? Yeah. Pagan. Do you have red and green around your house? Yeah. Pagan. Do you have a Yule log? Well, yeah. Pagan. Put candles in your windows? Oh, yeah, I always put candles in my windows. Pagan.
Pagan, yeah.
And I'm like, but you're worshiping Jesus, right? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay. Has Jesus struck you dead yet? Well, no. And I'm like, okay, you know why? Because even though some of that might be pagan, you're doing it in God's name. You're doing it in Jesus' name. So as long as you have, if you're Celtic Christian and you're going to follow that path, as long as you do that, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Obviously, if Jesus had a problem with you doing it, he'd let you know. I wear a triquetra with a pentacle in the middle of it. And a lot of Christians will come to me, well, why are you wearing a witchcraft symbol? Learn your history.
Yeah.
In ancient Celtic times, the pentacle stood for the head, hands, and feet of Christ as he was crucified. Sir Gawain had a pentacle on his shield during the Crusades.
Yeah.
There is a church in Exeter, England that is over 800 years old that has a pentacle in one of the stained glass windows. Like the pentacle at one time was used as a Christian symbol. The triquetra is in ancient Celtic times when Christianity took over from paganism. The Christians adopted some of the symbols and used them.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it evil as long as if you're following the Celtic Christian path, you are doing it in Christ's name. And it's, I don't want to say it's amazing because it's actually really sad how many people are not educated and don't even know their own history.
Yeah, and it's like with everything.
It is. And I even tell people, because people will say, oh, the upside down cross is evil. And I'm like, really? I said, then obviously you don't know the history of the upside down cross. Look it up. And they say, oh, yeah, well, one of Christ's followers was crucified upside down because he didn't feel he was worthy to be crucified the same as his Savior was. I said, exactly. I said, there's where the upside down cross started. Like, look up and see which one of his followers it was. Read his works. Read about him. Read what caused him to get to that point that he chose to be crucified on an upside down cross, and then come back to me and tell me that it's evil.
Right.
So
yeah,
I tell people, if you will open your mind and learn history, you will see that we are more similar than we are different. The hatred comes from, and this is why there are so many different branches of Christianity, even. Well, I'm right and you're wrong. Well, I don't believe that, so you're wrong. I know more than you do, so I'm going to go over here.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not how it's supposed to be. Everyone needs to find common ground and agree to disagree, or at least understand why people do the things they do. And I try to with Crowhaven Chapel, because people have come to me and they're like, oh yeah, you can't listen to goth music. And I'm like, there are some amazing, unfortunately they're all disbanded now, but I have some Christian goth music that I have done. There were some amazing Christian goth bands back in the day. Amazing. All singing for the glory of God. So it's like, if there is a perceived problem with any of this, it is because, as fallible humans, we have put that problem there and embraced it. Yeah. Because I can tell you right now, my mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, all hellfire, brimstone, and damnation Christians, and all practiced what would be considered in small town like they were in witchcraft.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, because like I said, it's almost sad how people just like are so quick to compartmentalize, and it's almost and I'm actually going to do a separate episode on this where I just talk about like something that just really, kind of gets under my skin, is when they're just like, if you're not like, if your art doesn't includes anything other than like skipping through the daffodils and rainbows and unicorns, and I love rainbows and unicorns and daffodils, but if it's like even the least bit like dark, they're like, oh, no, I can't read that, and it's just kind of like, it's the human experience. I mean, and yes, art is meant to, be an escape, but it's also meant to reflect, the human experience. And humans go through things. They go through good things. They go through bad things. They go through light times. They go through dark times. And, and just because you might write about your character going through a dark time, or, you might write, a song about, maybe like a dark time in your life. And, it's like, but it's just amazing how people will just twist that and be like, oh my gosh, that's evil, bleh, and it's,
you can't separate the two. And a lot of times they don't want to separate the two. It's like I tell people, because I go completely goth, and when I'm talking to people about my church, and a lot of times I'll wear a rosary, I collect rosaries, and people are like, oh, well, you can't do this and follow Jesus too. And I'm like, seriously? Jesus hung out with lepers and hookers. I dare you to get more goth than that. And they're like, well, yeah, I guess that's true. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it is. I'd like to see you hang out with How many lepers do you hang out with? You might hang out with some hookers. I don't know what people do in their private time, but I look at these people and I say, how many lepers do you hang out with?
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's the exact same thing. And I ran into that. It's funny that you talk about that because I ran into that back in the day. People
Mm-hmm.
would come to see me at conventions. And I looked up one time, there was a young couple.
Uh-huh.
And they were standing probably 5 feet away from my table.
Yeah.
And they were just standing there almost like this. And I was like, hey,
Mhm.
how you doing? Come on over. And
Oh, yeah.
I stepped even further back and they looked at my banner and they looked at me and they looked at my banner again. And then they said, are you Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc? And I said,
Mm.
yeah. And they said, but you're talking to us. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? Throw a brick at you? And they said, well, we didn't think that you would talk to anyone. We've read your works and they're so dark and creepy and macabre and gloomy and just make people want to commit suicide almost. They're so tragic. And I'm like, yep, that's what I write. They're like, but you're nothing like that. I'm like, that's what I write. That doesn't mean that's what I am.
Yeah.
Because people will
Yeah.
meet me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're so weird. You're nothing like what you write. And I'm like, I love everything dark. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
that I'm out sacrificing the neighborhood children in the backyard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that also gets to me. A friend of mine was attacked online because she posted a piece of dark art, and somebody
Uh-huh.
came, "Oh no, you shouldn't be posting this. That's evil." And I was like, just scrape them off.
Yeah, but yeah, because like that's the thing though. It's like artists also write from their experience and a lot of things that are symbolic of what they've been through. So who knows? And that's the thing though. It's just like who knows? That piece of art, I mean, yeah, maybe it's not your thing, but that piece of art could be very healing to somebody else.
Yeah,
And I mean, somebody else could look at that and be like, wow, I relate to that. I feel seen. I feel heard. You know, that might have like actually kept somebody from like unaliving themselves, because you
right,
don't know. And the thing is, it's like when you try to censor people like that, when you try to censor art like that, it's like you run, I mean, like for all yeah, that, I mean, that could have been the piece of art that maybe saved someone. And it's almost like who are you to play God like that? Who are you to like just you know judge, just like cast judgment like that. And and I'm, yeah, like that really just gets under my skin. Now, like if somebody's curious, like I don't mind that. Like if they're just kind of like, oh hey, just out of curiosity, like what inspired that song, or what inspired that story, like what inspired you to have like a more like gothic appearance, like what inspired that. I'll gladly tell you, and I won't sugarcoat it. Like I'll gladly tell you, but that's what annoys me is like people don't ask, they just assume,
right.
which I'm sure you probably know all too well,
Oh yeah, oh yes, I know all too well. I have run into that more times in my life
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I'll tell people, yeah, I'm the pastor of a church. I'm a minister, and they're like,
Mhm.
what? And it's like, well, what am I supposed to look like?
But you're wearing black,
Right. What am I supposed to look like? The perv on TV asking for money, the one that's they pan the audience and there's like 5,000 people sitting out in the audience, and then you hear
Yeah.
something on the news about them one day that they've done this. It's like, yeah, how did that looking the part work?
Uh-huh. How'd that work out for you? Yeah. I mean, I actually online, I saw there's this guy that cosplays as Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th. And there was this article about how he visited this terminally ill child, who's maybe like, I think 7, 8 years old, something like that. And that child was a fan of Jason Voorhees, and it was just like the article made me tear up because like he made like the guy went to him like dressed as Jason, and like the child's like eyes just lit up, and and then the guy as Jason told him, "I'm praying for a miracle for you."
Yeah.
And I'm actually tearing up just like thinking about it now, and it's just like, yeah, you know what? I'd rather have somebody like that around my really young nephew, than your pervy, minister. I'm not saying all ministers are pervy. I'm just putting that out there
Right.
so
No,
people
I
aren't like,
completely
oh my God,
understand that.
what?
Yeah. No, because
Yeah, not all of them are. So we're putting that out there.
no,
But
I've seen far too much of it's like, oh yeah, no wonder people hate Christianity. Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, but it's like, but from like your typical, kind of like man in a suit, like asking, for money, and like, it's just like, I don't know. I just think, kind of what you were saying. How was like that whole looking the part, like how'd that work out for you?
Oh yeah. I was going to do where I live before local politics stepped in and of course ruined everything like it does. Many years ago, there was a little boy that was dying and they were having like a festival for him
Mhm.
where they were going to have all kinds of things where people could donate and
Yeah.
you could, buy treats and crafts and things like that.
Mhm.
So I contacted them and I said, look, I'm a local, at that time I was still writing horror. I said, look, I'm a local horror author. I don't
Yeah.
know if you would be interested. That was when I was still famous. And I said,
Mhm.
I don't know if you would be interested in having me there, but I'd like to come and, make an appearance and
Yeah.
have, a book signing, whatever I can do to help. And the lady messaged me back and she's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've heard of you. Please, we would love to have you.
Mhm.
So, yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
That they
Yeah.
didn't care that I was a horror author. What they cared about was that I was willing to
Mhm.
come
Yeah.
and I was going to give all the proceeds from my book signing to the little boy because
Yeah.
he was terminally ill. So,
Right.
yeah, and like I said, it never happened. They ended up having to cancel it. But
Aw.
yeah, I mean, it's goes back to God doesn't care what you look like.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like
this is
John Wayne Gacy. He did kids' birthday parties. Hello,
there
do you
you
need
go.
any more? Do you need any more reason to be afraid of clowns?
Yeah. Exactly. Oh man, yeah. Well, this has definitely been a very fascinating conversation, and I always love seeing like where these conversations can go. And
Well,
we're
you know
coming
what,
up to
Penny? You're assured all kinds of strange paths.
because we're coming up to the hour. So where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Red Horse Promotions if you want to read
Mhm.
my Gothique work, or they can just, probably what I'll do is when I get off of this interview with you, I will get
Yeah.
on there and thank you publicly for my interview and
Yeah.
tag you, and then people can just
Mhm.
follow from there. And I'll do the
Uh-huh.
same thing on Greenlee's Garden. So, but
Oh,
I'm also on Instagram as Greenlee's Garden. So,
yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, yeah. So you can tag my music page and also my new podcast page too,
mhm.
the Tiffany Appen oh no, Tiffany After Hours podcast. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So cool. Well, yes, it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, just thank you so much. Like I said, this has been a very, very fascinating conversation. I'll probably have to have you on again so we can continue it. So
I love it. I'd love it. I always have
awesome.
a good time coming on your interviews with you, and I always enjoy myself. So thank you for having me.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I can't wait to get my Hobbit bag too.
Yes,
So yeah,
definitely. I will
I,
work on your Hobbit bag and get it to you.
yes, I can't wait to see what like material you picked out for me. So yeah.
Yep, I hope
All right.
you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Just let me know when it's done, and I'll tell you where to ship it. So.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Andrea, and thank you,
Thank you,
everybody,
Tiffany.
for listening. Oh, the kitty. Bye.
Thank you for listening to my mommy ramble.
Yeah, and thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you in the next episode. And cheers. And yes, Even though it's after Halloween, we can still stay spooky. All right.
All right. Thank you, Tiffany.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.